Emperor Pilaf. When talking about the very first villains in Dragon Ball, it's hard to forget Emperor Pilaf, the self-proclaimed emperor who rules over a castle hidden deep within a mushroom forest. With his small stature, blue-green skin, and a personality that is both cunning and clumsy, Pilaf carries the dream of world domination but is far more famous for failing than succeeding. His most iconic moment was not a glorious victory, but when Oolong stole the chance and used the Dragon Balls to wish for a pair of women's underwear, a scene both hilarious and legendary in the memories of Dragon Ball fans. Though he is not physically strong, Pilaf compensates with intelligence and a stash of advanced technology, ranging from robots and mini-tanks to machines designed to track down the Dragon Balls. However, all of these are only enough to trouble ordinary people against Goku. They're nothing more than child's play. At times, his subordinates have made a stronger impression than the boss himself, like Mai, who later, in the future timeline, becomes a companion and love interest of future Trunks. As for Pilaf, no matter how many years pass, he remains endlessly wandering in search of the Dragon Balls, clinging to a dream of domination that everyone knows will never come true. Mercenary Dao. In the early stages of Dragon Ball, most of the opponents Goku faced were still ordinary Earthlings, and the Red Ribbon Army soldiers before him could hardly withstand a single blow. But the arrival of Mercenary Tao, the world's #1 assassin at the time, completely changed the game. Infamous for never having failed a mission, he was a man even Commander Red had to respect. What impressed me most was his technique of killing with his tongue. This detail was both creative and chilling. A seemingly harmless body part turned into a lethal weapon, capable of piercing straight into a victim's temple. In their first encounter, Goku was no match for him. With just a few moves, Mercenary Dao defeated him and nearly took his life, if not for the 4-star Dragon Ball Goku carried, which shielded him from the fatal blow. Unwilling to accept defeat, Goku climbed Korin Tower and underwent intense training with Korin to greatly enhance his strength and speed. In their rematch, the tables turned. From predator, Mercenary Dao became the prey. Despite trying to use tricks to reverse the situation, he ended up sealing his own fate and was defeated. Refusing to give up, Mercenary Dao later modified his body into a cyborg, with a mechanical arm housing, hidden weapons, and enhanced strength. It sounded terrifying, but in reality, it didn't help much. He was swiftly taken down by Tien Shinhan in just a few moves at the World Martial Arts Tournament. King Piccolo. The appearance of King Piccolo marked a major turning point in Goku's journey on Earth. From this point on, villains were no longer just opponents in isolated matches, they became genuine threats to world peace. King Piccolo, in reality a Namekian who, at the time, claimed to be part of the Demon Clan, possessed the ability to reproduce asexually, creating an army of loyal, monster-like offspring to carry out his ambition of global domination and achieve eternal youth. As part of his plan, one of his most brutal acts was ordering his subordinates to eliminate all martial artists who had participated in the Tenkaichi Budokai, with the goal of seizing the 4-star Dragon Ball and a list of the world's strongest fighters. This event led to the first death of Krillin, delivering a devastating emotional blow to Goku and his companions. After achieving his wish for eternal youth, King Piccolo immediately killed Shenron to prevent anyone from using the Dragon Balls against him. At that time, no one knew that the Eternal Dragon could be revived, so this act seemed to erase humanity's hope entirely. However, his arrogance would be his undoing. In their final battle, even after breaking Goku's left arm and crushing both of his legs, King Piccolo deliberately let his opponent live as a form of taunt. This gave Goku the chance to unleash his decisive strike, piercing straight through King Piccolo's body. Before dying, King Piccolo created an egg containing Piccolo Jr., his heir in both will and strength, who would go on to become Goku's next major rival. Piccolo Jr. Piccolo Jr. is the sole offspring that King Piccolo left behind before his death, carrying within him all of his father's memories, power, and hatred. His only purpose upon being born was to fulfill his predecessor's dying wish to destroy Goku and continue the dream of world domination. In his early years, Piccolo Jr. embodied the same ruthlessness, cunning, and strength that made him a genuine threat. At the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, Piccolo Jr. stepped into the arena with the goal not only to defeat Goku, but also to seize absolute control. Throughout the match, he repeatedly gained the upper hand, even pushing Goku into life-threatening situations. However, Goku managed to master and successfully use the ability to fly, turning the tide of battle and delivering the decisive blow to defeat Piccolo Jr. Had Piccolo won, his path would almost certainly have mirrored the darkness and violence of King Piccolo. But fate took a different turn. Although he retained his cold and proud demeanor, Piccolo Jr. was gradually influenced by the members of the Z Fighters. His biggest turning point came when he took on the role of protector and mentor to Gohan. Over time, being with the boy wore down his aggression, replacing it with understanding and a sense of camaraderie. From a sworn enemy, Piccolo Jr. became an essential ally, standing alongside Goku and the Z Fighters in countless life-or-death battles. And perhaps the most intriguing thing about him is the unexpected irony. From a notorious Demon King, Piccolo Jr. would become one of the most devoted caretakers in the entire series. Raditz. Raditz is the very first antagonist of Dragon Ball Z, and the character who ushered in an entirely new era for the series. He was a Saiyan warrior from the lower ranks, yet the moment he appeared, he immediately demonstrated overwhelming dominance. Without wasting words, Raditz acted swiftly, kidnapping Gohan to force Goku into a confrontation. This was even more shocking given that Gohan was his own nephew, half Saiyan by blood, but still used by his uncle as a hostage. The arrival of Raditz expanded the world of Dragon Ball, revealing that beyond Earth, the universe held countless enemies far stronger than anything seen before. In the battle against Raditz, it was the first time Goku found himself in a situation with no chance of victory. Even when Piccolo joined forces with him, 2 against 1 was still not enough. This was one of the rare occasions where Goku was completely overpowered. With no way out, Goku was forced to choose a path where both he and his enemy would share the same fate. When Raditz let his guard down, Goku grabbed him in a tight hold, creating the opening for Piccolo's special beam cannon to hit its mark. The attack finished them both, marking Goku's first sacrifice in the series. Before collapsing, Raditz managed to leave a chilling warning that shook all the Z Fighters. 2 Saiyan warriors far stronger than him, Vegeta and Nappa, were already on their way to Earth. This revelation forced the group to begin urgent training, because if their power remained as it was, Earth's destruction was certain. Compared to the formidable foes that appeared later, Raditz may not seem as impressive in terms of strength. However, his role is undeniable. This battle proved that Goku could not always win, and Raditz's arrival opened a new chapter, one where threats from beyond the stars became the central focus of Dragon Ball Z. Nappa. Nappa is the antagonist responsible for one of the most devastating massacres the moment he set foot in Dragon Ball Z. Alongside Vegeta, Nappa arrived on Earth to avenge the death of Raditz and to search for the Dragon Balls in order to make a wish for immortality. The instant they landed, the two began unleashing destruction, making their intentions clear to take everything and leave nothing behind but ruin. Faced with this threat, the Z Fighters could not stand by, but at this critical moment, Goku had not yet returned from Snake Way after completing his training with King Kai, due to miscalculating the travel time, leaving his teammates to face the enemy head-on. Saiyan's strength was already fearsome, but no one anticipated just how terrifying Nappa would be. He took down Tien Shinhan, Chiaotzu, and Piccolo, while Yamcha met a bitter end at the hands of a self-destructing Saibaman. In a short span of time, nearly the entire defensive force of Earth was wiped out. His massive build, overwhelming power, and cruelty made Nappa the embodiment of despair for the survivors. But at the darkest moment, Goku returned. With sheer speed and superior strength, he completely dominated Nappa without even using Kaioken. Nappa attacked but couldn't land a single blow, while just a few strikes from Goku left him broken. The moment Goku effortlessly lifted the towering Nappa into the air with one hand became an iconic image, symbolizing the massive gap in their power. From a warrior who once dominated the battlefield, Nappa in an instant became a pitiful loser. Realizing his comrade was no longer of any use, Vegeta in his ruthless nature executed him swiftly, coldly, and without the slightest trace of mercy. Vegeta. Vegeta has been an important member of the Z Fighters for many years, to the point where many almost forget that he was once one of the most dangerous antagonists when he first appeared. At that time, Vegeta was the proud prince of the Saiyan race, cold, ruthless, and willing to sacrifice anyone, even allies, as long as it served his goal of restoring his people and becoming stronger. From the very moment he set foot on Earth, Vegeta demonstrated overwhelming power, dominating nearly the entire Z Fighter team. His first battle with Goku was one of the most intense confrontations in the series, forcing Goku to use Kaioken at its highest level at the time. Even then, without the help of Krillin, Gohan, and Yajirobe, Goku would have had no chance of holding Vegeta back. One of the most striking moments was when Vegeta transformed into Uzuru the Great Ape while retaining full consciousness, something Goku at that point could not do. This control over such immense power proved Vegeta's skill and mastery far surpassed that of many other Saiyan warriors. Over time, Vegeta began to change. From an arrogant and selfish fighter, he learned to fight for causes greater than himself for Earth, for his comrades, and especially for his family. However, his desire to surpass Goku never disappeared. By the time of the Majin Buu saga, this ambition led Vegeta to accept Babidi's control, becoming Majin Vegeta. Even under the influence of dark magic, Vegeta retained his humanity. In one of the most emotional moments of the series, he chose to sacrifice himself to protect his family and Earth, pouring all of his life force into a single attack in the hope of destroying Majin Buu, fully accepting that it would cost him his life. It was a turning point that showed how the Saiyan prince, who once lived only for pride and power, had grown to value the lives of those he loved above his own. Ginyu Force. The Ginyu Force was not just an ordinary combat squad, but an elite unit personally handpicked by Frieza from among the strongest warriors in the universe. Each of the 5 members had their own unique style and signature technique, but what made them truly dangerous was their flawless coordination in battle. In this universe, if you encountered one member of the Ginyu Force, it was almost certain the other 4 would appear to back them up. While not the most powerful group in Frieza's army, they were among the most skilled fighters, striking fear into countless enemies. Berter, known as the Blue Hurricane, possessed near unmatched speed combined with impressive physical strength, and was especially deadly when paired with Jace to unleash lightning-fast joint attacks. Recoome was a brutal giant with overwhelming power and extraordinary durability, armed with a mouth energy blast capable of obliterating an entire area. Jace was a well-rounded warrior, skilled in team tactics, and famous for his devastating Crusher Ball technique. Guldo, the smallest and physically weakest of the group, possessed the ability to stop time for a few seconds, a lethal skill if used at the right moment. Their leader, Captain Ginyu, was both powerful and cunning, notorious for his body change technique, which gave even Goku a hard time. During the battle on planet Namek, they initially overwhelmed the Z fighters, but the tide quickly turned. Guldo was killed by Vegeta before he could act. Recoome, Berter, and Jace were each defeated by Goku, and Ginyu, though able to swap bodies with Goku, made the fatal mistake of transferring into the body of a frog. By the end of the battle, 4 members were dead, leaving only Ginyu to survive, trapped in that pitiful form for years. From one of Frieza's most renowned squads, the Ginyu Force became a bitter yet unforgettable chapter in the history of Dragon Ball. Frieza. In the Dragon Ball universe, few names carry both destructive power and long-lasting terror, quite like Frieza. As the supreme emperor of an interplanetary empire, he not only wiped out countless planets but also ruled over multiple races through absolute fear. Cruel, cold, and arrogant, Frieza firmly believed that no one in the universe could match his level. When he first appeared in the Namek saga, Frieza was regarded as the pinnacle of power. Even in his first form, he was far beyond the level of any Z fighter. What made him dangerous was not only his raw strength, but also his meticulous calculation and ruthlessness, leaving no escape for his enemies. With every transformation from his second form to his third, and finally his final form, his power increased exponentially. And when threatened, he could unlock 100% of his muscle power, strong enough to destroy Namek in an instant. His battle with Goku on Namek became legendary, as he was the one responsible for pushing Goku into transforming into a Super Saiyan for the first time, following the death of Krillin. Even when cornered, Frieza chose to destroy the entire planet to drag Goku down with him. That defeat did not make him give up. Instead, it fueled an unending hatred. Frieza returned as Mecha Frieza after being rescued and rebuilt with cybernetic enhancements by King Cold. However, this time, he was swiftly killed by Future Trunks, turning his comeback into the greatest humiliation of his life. It seemed as if his story had ended, but Frieza continued to haunt the universe when he was revived in Resurrection F, achieving Golden Frieza after just 4 months of training. An incredible feat for someone who had never trained a single day in his life before. Yet, all these previous forms were merely stepping stones toward a new peak. Black Frieza. After secretly training for 10 years in a different time dimension, Frieza attained a form surpassing both Goku's Ultra Instinct and Vegeta's Ultra Ego. In a brief appearance during the Granola the Survivor saga, he defeated Gas, the strongest warrior in the universe at the time, with a single blow, then proceeded to take down both Goku and Vegeta in mere seconds. From someone who was once defeated, Frieza proved that he did not live off old glory alone. Black Frieza is no longer a relic of a buried past, but a statement that he can always return stronger, more ruthless, and more dangerous than anyone who has ever faced him. Android 16 is one of the most unique creations of Dr. Gero, a fully mechanical android with no human biological components whatsoever. The original purpose behind Android 16's creation was singular: to eliminate Goku as revenge for the Red Ribbon Army. However, from the moment he was completed, Dr. Gero realized a troubling truth. Android 16's power exceeded his own control. Fearing that 16 might become a threat to himself, Gero decided to seal him away and never activate him. Everything changed when Android 17 and Android 18 were awakened. Amid the chaos, it was 18 who ignored Gero's warnings and personally released Android 16, despite the claim that he was too dangerous to exist. But once Android 16 awakened, the truth defied everyone's expectations. He was not cold, ruthless, or driven by destruction. On the contrary, Android 16 was calm, kind-hearted, deeply fond of nature, and especially loved animals. This warmth made him stand out among the emotionless androids, to the point where people almost forgot he was just a machine. In terms of power, Android 16 ranked among the strongest androids, capable of overpowering Cell in his early form before his evolution. However, due to multiple storyline shifts in the Android arc and Cell's emergence, his combat role was significantly reduced. Android 16 never truly played the role of a villain, but rather that of a righteous warrior caught in a storm of chaos. Android 16's defining moment was not in hunting down Goku, but in his tragic death at the hands of Cell. When his head was crushed, his final words, "Protect what you love." Gohan ignited a spark of fury that awakened Super Saiyan 2 within Gohan, shifting the tide of the battle. Android 17 and Android 18 are masterpieces of Dr. Gero's semi-artificial beings possessing combat power far beyond most warriors in the universe. From the moment of their creation, they were programmed with a single mission: eliminate Son Goku. Unlike many other ruthless villains, they didn't kill indiscriminately. Their focus remained solely on their programmed target. In fact, despite having enough power to destroy Earth, they simply didn't bother because there was no reason to. The power of 17 and 18 was enough to defeat Super Saiyan Vegeta and several top-tier fighters in just a few moves, shaking the entire Z-Fighter team. But after Dr. Gero was eliminated, the chain of programming was broken. At that point, their remaining humanity gradually surfaced. Android 18 chose a peaceful life, marrying Krillin and giving birth to their daughter Marin. Android 17 withdrew to the forest, becoming a park ranger dedicated to protecting nature, all while continuing to train quietly. The peak of their evolution came during the Tournament of Power, where Android 17 returned and battled on equal footing with the strongest fighters across the universes. He ultimately became the last one standing, securing victory for Universe 7 through intelligent tactics and unwavering willpower. From emotionless machines, 17 and 18 found their own paths, becoming free warriors with ideals and hearts of their own. Android 20 is, in fact, Dr. Gero, the genius scientist behind all the advanced weapons and technology of the Red Ribbon Army. During the organization's golden era, Gero was an irreplaceable mind, the one who helped transform an ordinary military force into a power that made the world tremble. But everything changed when Goku single-handedly wiped out the Red Ribbon Army. From that moment on, Gero had only one goal: revenge. He devoted the remainder of his life to creating androids powerful enough to destroy Goku. However, even a genius can make mistakes. When he created Android 17 and Android 18, Gero didn't anticipate that these two masterpieces would be so powerful and independent that they would exceed his control. He even hesitated to activate them, fearing he might become their victim. But in the end, fate forced his hand, and that decision marked the end of his own life. Realizing that his human body was a weakness, Gero chose to transform himself into Android 20, gaining strength, energy absorption abilities, and near-infinite longevity. But this was also the step that led to his downfall. He was the mastermind behind every major threat in the Android arc, from 17 and 18 to Cell. If that intellect had been used for good, the world might have been a different place. But hatred clouded his judgment, and in the end, Gero was killed by Android 17, the very creation he once had the highest hopes for. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos.